Marshall aircraft shows what can happen when determination meets hard work. When he is not teaching or flying, Mr. Thomas enjoys another passion, farming. His chief pilot told him, take a rest on your days off. You will need it. Don't go beating that sheep. But if you look for him on your free day, you will probably find him in a market taking care of his vegetables and other crops. He farms simply because he loves it. Farming reminds him that success takes patience, just like crops need time to grow. Dreams also need time, effort, and care before they become reality. Mr. Thomas hopes that his story encourages every graduate to believe in themselves. You do not have to have all the answers. What matters is that you keep learning, keep trying, and keep moving forward. There will be obstacles along the way, but challenges and help make you stronger and wiser. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Michael.
Protocol being established. Member, and I say pleasant good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure for me to stand before you to present featured speech. When I was contacted by the principal, I was humbled. It immediately reminded me that although I have attained one of my passions, one of my dreams in life, that I have a duty to my fellow villagers. That I am duty bound to be not only an inspiration, but to be accessible and to provide guidance as much as possible to the upcoming one. So for that, I say thank you very much, for inviting me. Before I begin my speech, I can't help but to make note of a phrase that the principal used in her speech. It is not where you begin. A few years ago, I always invigilated CPA. And I don't know why, but I was always invigilating moments when not at school. At times I wanted to see other children. As I'm from Romans, I know them. Why don't they give me other children to invigilate? But I never complained. I went in, I invigilated. And before administering the exam, I would always ask them two questions. One was the brightest in the class. And the students, they honestly always pointed to one person. And the brightest student never pointed to themselves. The second question I would ask is, which school do you want to go to? And if they did not respond, I would start by calling school name. And the first school I would call naturally would be the grammar school. And all hands, most hands would go up. And I would come down the list. And whenever I asked who one was in the North Union, there was never a hand there. But it's not where you begin. And I could also say to you, I never wanted to be a teacher. You will hear about that later. I was contacted by an education official to teach. And I was offered two schools, St. Grammar School and the North Union. Why did I choose North Union? It's my people. I did not go to North Union, but my villagers, my friends, were students at North Union, and I wanted to help them. So I went to North Union to teach, and for most of my working life was spent at North Union. Second point before I dive in, on driving past the Georgetown Cemetery recently, I don't know, but out of the blue, the graduation theme jumped out at me, full of potential. And I remember the area a few years ago. There is one place that is full of potential, the cemetery. So you know why you can't do the potential there? You can't use it. You know what you can do your achievement as you sit here in with your sashes. You should be proud of what you have accomplished. Graduates, today you are closing one chapter of life and preparing to begin another. The journey ahead will bring new opportunities, new friendships, new experiences, and yes, new challenges. As you prepare for that journey, I would like to share my story with you. A story about dreams, a story about perseverance, and believing in yourself when circumstances suggest otherwise. Our theme today is full of potential, unlocking greatness, embracing the future. I believe this theme perfectly describes each of you. Every student sitting before me is full of potential. You may not see it yet. You may not fully understand the talents and abilities that lie within you, but greatness is already there. The question is whether you have enough courage, determination, and patience to unlock it. When I was your age, I developed a fascination with aeroplanes. Every aircraft that flew overhead captured my attention. I dreamed one day of becoming a pilot and flying people safely to destinations around the Caribbean and beyond. As I grew older, that dream became stronger. After completing 9/11, I was ready to pursue flight training, but there was one problem. I did not have the financial support necessary to complete my dream. At that moment, it felt as though my dream had come to an end even before it began. I could have become bitter. I could have blamed my circumstances. I could have abandoned the dream completely. Instead, I chose another path. I enrolled at the university and continued my education. After graduating, I began working as a geography teacher with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I enjoyed teaching, I loved helping students, yet deep inside, the dream of becoming a pilot never disappeared. For 9 years, I taught in the classroom, saving as much as I could toward flight training. Eventually, I had enough money. Not enough money, but I had enough to make a start. It's not some training that I could pay out of pocket, but I had found a way to pay for it with a loan. And I asked myself, you just finished university with a student loan, you're going back for a bigger loan, you don't want to enjoy your life, but it was my opportunity. I had waited years for it. I thought that because I had dreamed about flying for so long, everything would come naturally. But life had another lesson to teach me. On my very first training flight, as the aircraft climbed, descended, turned, and moved in ways I never imagined, when the flight ended, I was completely overwhelmed. That evening, I cried for most of the night. I was convinced that flying was not for me. I questioned myself, I doubted my ability, and wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. And my mistake was I paid the flight ticket in full. Yeah. I went there for they accepted the doors, I gave them the check with the complete amount for flight training. And that night, when I wanted to quit, I remember that I given them all my money. Moments when something you wanted turned out to be much harder than you expected. Moments when you wondered whether you were capable. Moments when quitting seemed easier than continuing. The next morning, I I made a choice. I had a choice. I could quit or I could try again. I chose to try again and again. And eventually, fear gave way to confidence. Confusion gave way to understanding. What seemed impossible became achievable. That experience taught me an important lesson. The beginning is often the hardest part of a journey. Just because something is difficult does not mean it is not meant for you. As training continued, another challenge appeared. Flight training is expensive, and eventually I ran out of money. The situation became so serious that I had completed every training requirement except one, the final check ride, the examination required to earn my pilot's license. Imagine walking towards a dream for years and finding yourself one step away from the finish line without money to complete the final step. I felt discouraged, I felt frustrated, but I refused to quit. With determination, faith, sacrifice, and the support from others, I found a way forward and successfully completed the check ride. At that point, I thought the struggle was over. I thought airlines would be calling. I thought opportunities would start appearing. I thought I had finally arrived. But life still had more lessons for me. In order to qualify for employment within the region, within St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Antigua, the Eastern Caribbean, I have to complete a regional conversion exam. Guess what the pass mark was for that exam? 75%. Yeah. But not only 75%, the exam had 6 sections. I could not get less than 55 in any section. And the 75% overall. Yeah. But that's not the bad part. There was very few resources available to help me prepare for that exam. There were no classes to attend, no instructor to guide me, no prepared study package waiting for me. I had to become my own teacher. I searched for study material, I read regulations, I created notes, I prepared mock exams for myself. Then I faced another challenge. I had to find money to sit the exam. After investing so much into flight training, there was still additional expenses standing between me and my dream. Yet I continued, and eventually I passed. Surely, now I thought the opportunity would come, but once again I was tested. Year after year, I submitted applications. I carefully prepared my resume. I wrote cover letters. I sent applications, and then I waited. Most of the time, there was no response. Not even an acknowledgement that the application was received. And I know most of some of you here would have had that same experience. You are excited to send out your application, only to check your emails, and back then it was mail. So I'm checking my mail, not even an acknowledgement. And it got to the point where I realized if you ever get a letter in the mail from the company or organization that we send an application to, because they're telling you sorry, no vacancy. But then I got no response. 1 year passed, then another, then another. Meanwhile, I continued teaching. Eventually, I had been teaching for 21 years. To be completely honest with you, there came a point when I gave up. I convinced myself that perhaps becoming a pilot, an airline pilot, simply was not meant to be. Maybe too much time had passed, maybe I had missed my opportunity, maybe my dream was over. saying to him that I had given up. I'm no longer interested. I am not going to send any more application. He listened carefully and then said words that changed my life. He looked at me and said, "No, Michael, everyone deserves a chance. No matter how many years have passed, you can't give up." Those words reignited something within me. They reminded me that dreams do not have an expiration date. They reminded me that opportunities sometimes arrive later than expected. They reminded me that perseverance matters. So I continued. I kept my license current. I continued studying. I continued preparing. I continued believing. Then after 21 years as a teacher, and many years, 12 years after completing flight school, the opportunity finally came. I was offered a position as the first officer with LWAS. The dream that had survived the financial challenges, self-doubt, difficult examinations, unanswered applications, and years of waiting had finally become reality. The first time I sat in the cockpit wearing an airline uniform, I reflected on my journey. I realized that every obstacle had taught me something valuable. Every disappointment had made me stronger. Every delay had prepared me for that moment. Graduates, why have I shared my story with you? Because life will not always go according to your plans. Sometimes you will face challenges. Sometimes you will experience disappointment. Sometimes you will fail. Sometimes people will overlook you. Sometimes opportunities will take longer than you expect. But never confuse delay with denial. Never allow a setback to become a stopping point. Never allow temporary difficulties to convince you that permanent success is impossible. Remember this, dreams do not have an expiry date. Your future doctor, visiting head, your future engineer, teacher, entrepreneur, scientist, prime minister, pilot, lawyer, the greatness that you see is already within you. Your responsibility is to develop it. Work hard, be respectful, stay curious, read widely, treat people kindly. Learn from your mistakes and never stop believing in what is possible. To the parents and guardians, thank you for your sacrifices, encouragement, and unwavering support. To the teachers, thank you for your dedication and commitment to shaping young lives. And to the graduating class, remember that today is not the finish line, it is the launch pad. As you leave here today, carry this message with you. You are full of potential. You are capable of greatness. Your circumstances do not determine your destiny. Your future is bright. Unlock your greatness, embrace the future, and never give up on your dreams. Congratulations, class of 2026. May God bless